What is your best sorry, wrong number moment? Hey folks, quick aside, it's Mr. Facts, slowly easing back into things. For those wondering about my absence, I've got TMJ and a thus far undiagnosed swelling issue with my throat and sinuses. As you can imagine, just about the worst case for a guy who does voiceover, so I can't do all the recordings yet, but I'm trying to get you a little something. Thankfully, we have our amazing sub filling in where I can't, and I couldn't be more grateful. Okay, now on to some wrong numbers moments. Story 1. I was working retail at a pet store and got a phone call from an old lady asking to pay her phone bill. She said she had been transferred twice now, and yes, this had happened before. I told her I was working on a pet store in Alaska, to which she was very angry. How dare you lie to me? I have been talking to phone company in Florida, and now you want me to believe I'm talking to a pet store in Alaska? I told her, yep, I have no clue how you got transferred to me, but what is your name and number, and what service are you trying to get done? She gave me her name and phone number and told me that she was just trying to pay an overdue bill on a different phone so she could use her phone again. I checked with her to make sure what company she was calling. I told her I need to check something and I'd be right back. I looked up the company on my computer at work and called. They asked what I wanted, and I asked if I could just be transferred to a manager as it would be easier to explain. I explained that I had a customer who had been trying to call and was transferred. The manager knew the account and the lady, and I asked if he could give the gal a call on her landline, which I had gotten. And they agreed they would within a few minutes. I hung up, took the lady off of hold, and told her something akin to, hey, so I got off the phone company to agree to call your landline, and you should be able to pay that way. If they don't follow through, here's my personal cell line, and let me know. She said thanks and hung up. The Wholesome Alaskan Pet Store sounds like a good title for something. I rarely comment, but this was super wholesome. Good on you. It's nice to come back to such a nice, heartwarming story like this. Super weird that woman got transferred like that, but huge props to the OP for just being patient and going so far above and beyond anything that would be expected or something. Then again, if it was a slow day at the store, I imagine that made for a pretty interesting little distraction. Story 2. I remember getting a wrong number call a few days ago. They introduced themselves in a very intimidating manner, stating that everything spoken over the phone would be recorded and used against me in court. But they asked for Rebecca, and I mentioned that they had the wrong number. Their tone of voice completely changed afterwards, and they apologized and hung up. I wonder if the actual Rebecca could have done this to get rid of this caller. It's standard collections tactics. I had one after my brother who called every member of my extended blood relatives telling them that the police were on their way to get him. Note, it's illegal to even threaten that, and it's illegal to hassle people like that. I once got a collections agent on my tail because the person who lived in my apartment before me had massive debt and my landlord thought it would be a good idea to give collections my number. Awesome. No matter how many times I told them I wasn't Rachel or whoever they were looking for, they kept calling back at least 4 to 5 times a week. It was the same person calling each time too. They just weren't very smart. Finally, they stopped when I said if they ever called me again, I would contact the authorities because I am not and never have been Rachel. They love to intimidate, but hate when the law is turned around on them. Story 3. I've had a few. I got my own cell line once I hit 18, pretty much, and the number I got used to belong to a woman named Sandra. I know she was pregnant as I'd gotten calls from strangers congratulating me on it, and after realizing I had no idea what they were on about, would ask if I had her new number. Dumb request, in my opinion, but I mostly ignored it. I also got a voicemail a few times from her place of work, and one sounded very serious. From what I could gather, she was a nurse, or at least worked at a hospital, and they were trying to get her to cover a shift. I called back trying to be helpful, but the person who answered was mostly annoyed. I got a call within the last year asking to speak about my son and how he's in trouble. I'm assuming the same kid from almost a decade ago is getting into trouble at school now. Why they listed such an old number, I don't know. Lastly, I still get calls for her and her husband's prescriptions. No idea how many times I called to correct them, but Franz and Sandra have some set up for auto refill. I haven't gotten a reminder in a few weeks, so maybe a pharmacist spoke to them finally. I had a similar experience. I have the same name as a cardiologist in New York City. I am not a doctor. When I got to my office one Monday morning, there were 3 or 4 messages from some guy who was wheezing and sounded pretty desperate, saying that the medication was not working and made him dizzy. When I called the doctor to let him know, his response was basically, "Why are you bothering me with this nonsense? I'm not even in my office today. I will call back the patient on Tuesday if I feel like it." I was so stunned I forgot to tell him that he was a flaming butthole. Aw, poor guy. I bet you'd be a better doctor than your name twin. This makes my blood boil. F this doctor. Good grief, how do people go that long without updating people on their phone numbers? I mean, I guess I haven't changed my cell number in like 15 years, so I've avoided this issue altogether. Honestly, I feel like in this day and age, we should all just get phone numbers assigned to us that are ours. Now, if you're being stalked, then changing your number. Stalkers ruining my good ideas yet again. Story 4. When I was in my 20s, I met a guy, let's call him Jay, while out with my friends. He gave me his number, landline, and I called him a few days later. Turns out he gave me his friend's phone number. We will call the friend C. I ended up chatting with C via phone for several days, and we made plans to go out. I haven't seen what he looked like, but he was just really funny, and we really enjoyed talking. C told Jay what happened with the calls. I met up with C, and he was super handsome and so fun. We ended up dating for about a year, and Jay ended up becoming a good friend. 20 plus years later, I am still friends with both Jay and C. And C is married now, and his wife was my daughter's first grade teacher. Wholesome. Kind of. It was weird at parent-teacher conferences, however, for me. Thanks for educating my daughter, even though I effed your husband, nervous laugh, ETS. I am happily married. I have no clue if Mrs. C even knows we dated since it was a long time ago. She is a lovely person and was excellent at teaching my daughter. Our kids play sports together, so we see each other quite frequently. Story 5. I made someone else say, "Sorry, wrong number." Someone called me, I was in the mood to troll, and the person calling was a telemarketer trying to sell water toys, water guns, slides, balloons, etc. I asked the dimensions of the water gun nozzle, then fake asked the person next to me, without covering the microphone, how big their D was in comparison. They hung up. This is the perfect comment. I kept getting calls from an unknown number that left a voicemail informing me that the FBI and IRS were looking for me. It happened like 10 times one afternoon. Finally, I picked up the phone, waited for a real person, and just asked, "Sorry, I didn't catch that. Can you speak up?" over and over. It took them 3 times before they got wise, told me to go F myself, and hung up. Never got another call from them, though. I just fake turning into a werewolf mid-call on people like that. I know this sounds like a joke, but I've done it multiple times. Go ahead, feel free to use that one. It's fun. Story 6. Whenever someone calls AT&T's 411 info line and asks for the time of day for Seattle, Washington, they would get connected with my cell phone number. I got so many voicemails of old people who were peed. I got tired of answering my phone saying, "I don't know why they listed my number, but the time is 1:30 p.m. The AT&T guy thought I was insane trying to explain until I made him call, and when I answered, I was like, "Yep, it's me." Somehow Google had my small company's 800 number listed as the number for a Cricket wireless store in Texas. I'd constantly get calls, often from angry customers, and it took weeks to get it fixed. The guy at Google somehow couldn't quite grasp the concept and kept telling me to call Cricket to get it fixed, giving me my number to call. I got really tempted to start telling people they'd want a free iPhone or something just to get the people at the store to pay attention. You really should have, LOL. It would have fixed the problem right away. Yeah, but you're really jerking around someone who's only trying to contact their cell phone store. I'm really trying to wrap my head around the first part of that. People calling AT&T's 411 asking for the time in Seattle? I don't... What? Why? Old people, why are you calling 411 for that info? And why would doing that result in that? I'm going to be fixated on this mystery all friggin' day. What the heck? What have I come back to? Story 7. I woke up to a massive string of texts accusing me of being the man that was cheating with someone's girlfriend or wife. I'm a woman. I didn't work at the place mentioned. They were super apologetic when I texted them back in the morning. On the plus side, I got a bunch of texts from this guy saying that my brother is sleeping around with married women. So he was contacting every woman who is friends with my brother on Facebook to warn them that he's a player and is probably cheating on them. I asked my brother about it and he was like, "He contacted you too, huh? I slept with his wife way back when we were in high school, nearly 30 years ago, and haven't seen her since. I don't know what's going on with him." Wait, so your brother was in high school with his wife? Was she married in high school, or was she a married woman effing a high school kid? It's entirely possible she was unmarried and single when they hooked up and the guy was just bat crap crazy. Story 8. I once misdialed and got a very upper-class gentleman. I asked for my friend and he said, "I think you've dialed a wrong number." I replied, "Oh, what number have I dialed?" Quick as lightning, he said, "I don't know, I'm not there," and hung up. I stared at the handset for a solid 30 seconds trying to figure out how I'd been checkmated in the conversation so effectively and so quickly. Well played, sir. Well played. Edit typos. He's probably been waiting for a long time to use that one. I don't get it, LOL. He doesn't know what the OP dialed because he's not there and can't see what buttons they pressed. It ignores that he obviously knows his own number, but that's not what OP asked. He answered exactly the question asked and no more, making OP feel silly for asking that way. Story 9. In the early 90s, our home phone number was off by 1 digit from a local movie theater. People called all the time, so we'd give them the correct number. I remember one time a guy asked us to just read him the shows and times from the newspaper anyway. Did you hang up on him? No, actually, my dad was the one who answered the phone, and I remember he ended up grabbing the paper and checking the times for some movies for him. After we got off the phone, he said the guy seemed genuinely distraught about it, so he didn't mind checking. When I've received wrong number calls, I've been more than happy to run to the internet to look up the correct number for them. Our landline is 1 number off from a local pet foster agency. Have been happy to redirect them to a proper number. I'm less charitable when the caller grunts, "Well, this is the number they gave me." Sorry, dude, not my fault. Someone else effed up. Yeah, I don't get too many wrong numbers these days, but when I do, I feel like it is always from someone like, "No, I've got the right number." Sir, I promise you, you don't. I've had this number for over a decade. Are you sure Heather isn't there? Not that I'm aware of, unless she's a ghost or something. Is Heather a ghost? As you can imagine, I am not considered very helpful. Story 10. My wife, a vocal political activist, got a text several months ago which simply said, "I am going to kill you." She came into my office pretty rattled and handed me her phone, unsure of what to do / how to respond. Using a reverse number lookup, Google Maps, FB, etc., I put together a small dossier and texted back from my burner. "Dear names of entire family, children, etc., at their home address, zip, etc., you seem to have sent a death threat to my wife's number, which has caused some consternation. We're including name of local sheriff, at police station 2.5 miles from subject's location, and presently have him on hold while you explain yourself. You have a few minutes to reply before this is handed off to your local authorities." Got a reply in seconds. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was trying to text my brother. It was a joke. Please, it was a stupid mistake. Really sorry." I replied that they should be careful and to have a nice day. Not really a great story, I know, but the most stimulating wrong number anecdote I can recall offhand. Don't undersell your story. This was one of my favorites. Wow, talk about going from 0 to 100. I'm protective of my loved ones too, but damn. Story 11. Back when I was a kid, we lived 3,000 miles away from our grandparents, so we didn't get to see them very often. One evening, the phone rang, I answered, and had a really nice chat with my grandma for about 10 minutes. She called me the wrong name to say goodbye, and I was confused, and we both realized she dialed the wrong number. Now you have 2 grandmas. Most people do. Oh my God, you're right. I didn't even realize. So I guess they have 1 additional grandma now. I'm almost 40 and am sadly all out of grandmas, and I had 4 of them thanks to step-parents. Frankly, I would love to get some extra grandmas back on the roster because my last grandma was the most amazing little Italian firecracker and could light up a room with her smile. Miss her all the time. Folks, never pass up an opportunity to get more grandmas, and also cherish the time you have with current grandmas. Story 12. Someone phoned my parents' landline in tears saying that they had proof that my husband was having an affair with his girlfriend. I explained that I was 14 and my parents were in their 40s. He apologized for having the wrong number and hung up. This was around 17 years ago. Classic grandpa response. I'm thankful grandma's not a blank. Honestly, I think she was a little flattered that someone thought that she, or at least the sound of her voice, was attractive enough to steal another woman's husband at her age. Story 13. Someone kept messaging me looking for Sarah to the point where it was effing annoying. Took a picture of me shirtless, I'm fat and built like a effing gorilla, lots of body hair, holding a beer. The next text I got searching for Sarah, I sent it to them. They never messaged back. Laugh my butt off, you mad lad. Was the Sarah in question a blonde stock photo model from 15 years ago? I follow this YouTuber, Max Fosh, that went on a wild goose chase the past month trying to find her after owning a picture frame with her picture as the default for years. For anyone interested, he did find her. Her name's Alan, and she didn't want to be found, so that was that. Sounds like the plot of a weird rom-com. Story 14. I got a text on my new phone that said, "What you doing, baby girl?" I replied, "I'm pregnant." Phone rang in like 2 seconds. He was peed when a guy answered the phone and told me I was a butthole for making him panic. But don't worry, it's not yours. It's your father's. Happy cake day. That's genius, LOL. I had something similar happen to me when I got my first phone. Some guy texted me, "Hey, are we going clubbing tonight or what? Hit me up, dog." And since it was around 10 p.m. and I had school the next morning because I was like 12 at the time, I decided to ignore it. Then this guy sent me another text saying, "Yo, dog, why you holding out on me?" And when I texted him back, he said, "Oh shit, sorry." I don't know what this guy's deal was with slag and all caps, but I hope he found his clubbing buddy. If you're typing in all caps about going clubbing, I have to assume you are either already high or really, really excited about getting high at the club. Either way, I'm going to need you to rein in it a little, get rid of those caps, and just tag on a few exclamation marks on the end of your texts. That's more my speed. Exclamation marks, and I feel like we'll have a few drinks and get a little wild. All caps, and I'm going to be making sure you get enough water all night, and that's too much for me. Story 15. One time when I was about 11 years old, my mom wanted me to call my grandma and read off a recipe for pound cake because my grandma wanted to make one. I dialed the number, someone answered, then I promptly started reciting the recipe my mom gave me. When I got to the end, the person snorted and said, I think you have the wrong number." I said I was sorry and hung up. This made me laugh out loud. "Okay, sherbet, eggs, flour, sugar." The person on the other end. Okay, sherbet. Have the wrong number, don't I? I'll just hang up. Person. No. Keep going. Story 16. My area code is 906, and they were likely looking for 907 plus my number because their call came from 907. I answered, and an older woman just started speaking Spanish so fast I had no idea she was actually talking at first. I said, "Hello?" and she started to repeat herself, but she stopped, and I just said, "Sorry, I think you have the wrong number." And she goes, "Crap!" and promptly hangs up. This happened 2 more times before she apparently fixed the contact in her phone, LOL. Area code 907 is in Alaska. A lot of tech-backwards people in Alaska. Not surprised. I live in Alaska. I can confirm this. Story 17. When I got my current phone number, it took about 6 months before all the previous owner's contacts had called me once and realized he changed numbers. I'm 99% sure he sold pot, but he wasn't anyone's go-to dealer. He was an emergency, my usual guy is out, are you holding, weed guy. They always had some weird code word for what they wanted in the time it took me to explain this was my number. I'll never forget the guy who called up and said, "Yeah, my usual guy is out, man. I'm looking for turtle food." I like turtles. Hey, look, I found a zombie kid. I like to think this guy was an exclusive turtle food dealer. He's got all the right crap, fruits that only grow in the Amazon and worms from prehistoric times because they taste the best to turtles. And some poor bunch of turtles are just eating regular food. This went from very much in my wheelhouse to, I guess, also kind of in my wheelhouse. We do have turtles in the pond out back, but they mostly look angry. I'm not sure what kind of turtle food I would even need for those meanies. I mean, I guess that's why you get a turtle food dealer. They're gonna know what those big snappers are into. Okay, I'm sold. Someone hook me up with a turtle food dealer, but keep it on the down low. Story 18. It was actually a voicemail left on my work phone. It was a woman going on and on about how the intended recipient was a very naughty boy and he deserved a spanking. I was mortified and deleted it after a few minutes, but I should have kept it. In hindsight, it was hilarious. You were very naughty for deleting it. You need a spanking. I had something similar happen at my first real job. I came in one morning and had a voicemail that was left overnight by some guy who evidently gets off on leaving strangers voicemails of him masturbating. I panicked and deleted it immediately as though I would somehow get in trouble for it. Story 19. Had a whole party call my number and sing me happy birthday over the phone. I didn't have the heart to stop them midway, so I stayed quiet until the end. Sorry guys, but my birthday is in December, not June. We had a good laugh about it, and that was that. Wholesome. Story 20. Literally today, I called the wrong number trying to set up a dental appointment. Old lady on the other line. Well, I guess I could get my husband to work on your teeth if you want. He's not a dentist or anything, though. Old people are blessed. Nice old people are a blessing, and I will kill for my grandmother if she asked me to. A side note, she told me she'd turn me into the cops if I killed someone, so... Story 21. I had this man text me asking me out to my work number. I explained that he had the wrong number and that I'm just some guy who sells software. He was all, "Don't play me like that, girl." So I sent back a pic of me, all male, with my beard, etc. He insists that I just Googled that image and texts me for 6 months, trying to convince me to go out with him. To be honest, I kind of looked forward to the text because it was so funny. You should take him up on the offer. Maybe you could have gotten a free drink at least. Imagine you were a girl that wasn't interested. He's creepy. That's probably why she gave him the wrong number. I can excuse the first reaction of "don't play me like that, girl" to some extent, but persisting for 6 months? That is the behavior of someone who has or will have a very intimate relationship with Mace. Folks, if you think it really is the person whose number you've got, if they're lying to avoid you, you probably should take the hint. Story 22. My mother-in-law gets a call and is chatting away for several minutes. She gets off and we ask who it was. It was a wrong number. She likes to be friendly, or she's having an affair with a guy at some telesale place in town. His name's Jeremy and he's got a voice like a Rolls Royce running on honey. As I said, she likes to be friendly. This exchange made me chuckle. Story 23. Someone called me Susan and asked me to come into therapy. Did you sing Whitney Houston's "My Name Is Not Susan" back at them? I like that. From now on, I'm going to use that as an expression of astonishment. Well, call me Susan and ask me to come in for therapy. Story 24. Whoever used to have my number still uses it on forms and stuff. I get calls for debt collectors, dentists, etc. One day I got a call from a bail bondsman. This lady's boyfriend had skipped bail and she's on the hook for $50K. Scared the crap out of me. I have one of those numbers. For 10 years, debt collectors and police have called. Every time they say they'll make a note that it's not her number, someone else will call a bit later. She's still using my number. Story 25. In 2004, when I was under 18, some girl sent me a picture of her tatas. I don't think the term naughty texting was ever part of the lexicon. Camera phones were still pretty new and phones were dumb, and it was pretty awesome. Surprise tatas are the best. This happened to me and my friends many years ago. We found a phone in the school parking lot and we were working on a project, so we left it there hoping someone would call to pick it up. Instead, a text comes in from someone saying she sent a picture of her tatas and some things she wanted to do to the phone's owner. Since the phone was not even a flip phone or could display images, there was an extra message that gave a code to download the picture from the carrier's web portal. We had someone stop working on the project to run over to the computer lab and bring back the photo on a floppy disk. He returned triumphant with some low-res tatas, and later a call came in from the phone's owner. It was a teacher at the school. You can't just leave us on that. What happened? Well, I was just reminded of what it was like having a phone back in 2004, and wow, we really take modern naughty picture technology for granted these days. It is so easy to just send someone a pic of your butt that you could almost do it on accident. In fact, it is so easy that we have to worry about pictures on our phones getting leaked by hackers when we don't want them sent. Back then, you damn near needed to be a hacker to purposefully send a naughty pic. Story 26. My landlady once sent this obscene joke via text and then called a few minutes later with horror in her voice to apologize profusely. A friend of hers was the contact below me, so she accidentally sent the text to the wrong one. Edit. I went to sleep and didn't think this would blow up. Sorry to disappoint you folks, but that happened 15-ish years ago and I don't remember the joke well enough to deliver it in a funny manner. Plus, it was in Croatian and might not translate that well into English. Something about a boss subsidizing an employee's hot meal because she was regularly giving him head. Story 27. So I was around 12 with not even a smartphone. It was those phones with a built-in keyboard that slid. I got a call when I was home alone from a random number. It was like a guy, fairly young, I think, yelling at me saying, "I know you cheated, you B. Why did you do it?" I told him he had the wrong number, and he said, "Liar, don't act dumb. You know I know where you live, right? I'm gonna ducking kill you and your ducking family, you bee." As a 12-year-old girl, I was horrified he actually was going to kill me. He obviously never did, but still, me being home alone then didn't help either, and I was too scared to tell my parents. I hope whomever that guy was, that he got what he deserved. I don't know what exactly he deserved, maybe a swift kick to the tater tots or a swift bust to the face to set him on a better path, but either way, not cool to say that crap to anyone, 12-year-old girl or fully grown woman you went out with. Sorry I had to deal with that, because I would have been a mess at that age. Story 28. I stopped getting robocalls for health insurance when I told them I wouldn't qualify because I'm terminally ill. I'm not. I got blood banks to stop calling me with a similar method. They kept calling and I kept saying I was ineligible. They wouldn't believe me. Finally, one said, how would I know if I was eligible or not because they had just changed their eligibility rules. I asked when they changed their rules about accepting blood from cancer patients because I wanted to let my oncologist know so he could tell all his patients. The guy stuttered an apology with a promise to take me off the list. Yes, I have cancer. No, I am not terminal. Yes, I am in remission. I just needed them to quit calling. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.